And look who we found. We found Marilyn Monroe, 1926 to 1962. And there's lip marks all over it as well. And people have left candles, flowers, a card. Very, very cool. And she is best remembered for playing the blonde bombshell characters, as she became one of the most popular, I would say, sex symbols of the 1950s and probably all time. And it said she'd only been a top-billed actress for 10 years, and by the time her death happened in 1962, her films had grossed $200 million. And it says, in 1944, as part of the war effort, she was introduced to a photographer from the first motion picture unit and began a successful pin-up modeling career. The work led to short-lived film contracts with 20th Century Fox, 1946 to 47, and Columbia Pictures, 1948. And also, after a series of minor film roles, she signed a new contract with 20th Century Fox in 1951. And over the next 2 years became a popular actress and had roles in several comedies. And then shortly after, a scandal ensued because it had been discovered that she posed for nude photos before she was famous. And instead of it like ruining her career, it just increased interest in her movies more and more. And then in 1962, she was found dead in her home of an apparent overdose, which spawned for years conspiracy theories as to what really happened to her. But definitely an icon. Don't want her death to overshadow anything here. She was a movie icon, one of the most sought after actresses of her time, and in the imaginations of a lot of young men worldwide, and I'm sure still to this day. So it's common knowledge that Marilyn was married to baseball player Joe DiMaggio, and while they were married, he bought two of these spots, two of these crypt areas, one for her and one for him. But following their divorce in 1954, Joe sold it to Richard here, and Richard is known as the man with the eternal smile. In place of actor and comedian Don Adams. He is best remembered for his role of Agent Maxwell Smart in the 1960s television comedy Get Smart, for which he won 3 Emmy Awards. He was also the voice of television cartoon characters Tennessee Tuxedo and Inspector Gadget. And he had a long list of accomplishments in his life. And in World War II, I had also read that he served in the Marine Corps. That's Don Adams. Maxwell Smart, Inspector Gadget, Tennessee Tuxedo. He was born April 13th, 1923, died September 25th, 2005. So his beloved father, husband, and grandfather proudly served his country during World War II in the Marine Corps. Comedian, poet, philosopher, movie buff, and never late for post time. A tough but sensitive man with a sentimental heart and a passionate soul. He touched our hearts as Maxwell Smart, Secret Agent 86 in the 60s classic TV series Get Smart, and filled the world with laughter that will forever be remembered. And at the bottom it says, "Would you believe?" Here, Chris Cornell. (1964 to 2017), beloved husband and father. On his stone on top it says, "A voice of our generation and an artist for all time." And he was in bands Soundgarden, Tumble the Dog, and Audio Slave. And in 1984 he helped form Soundgarden. Actually, I liked Audio Slave. Which band that he was in do you like? but I really dug Audio Slave. Three of Soundgarden's albums will go on to be certified platinum, including 1994's Super Unknown, which featured Black Hole Sun, Fell on Black Days, Spoonman, and My Wave. Unfortunately, he said he was found dead in his Detroit hotel room in the early hours of May 18th, 2017, after performing at a Soundgarden concert an hour earlier at the Fox Theater. His death was ruled a suicide by hanging. It's a shame. The guy could sing, man. He was a talent. Valerie Harper. From the Mary Tyler Moore Show, Rhoda, the Hogan Family. I almost missed her grave because of all of this, the plants they have in here. The picture I had was, I guess, where all the plants grew and everything. And I almost missed it. I thought it was just part of the bush or the tree or something. Ourselves to round out this video at the grave of I Don't Get No Respect, Rodney Dangerfield. From what I heard, he, in the 1940s, worked at a resort in the Catskill Mountains and wrote jokes and was performing as a singing waiter as well. And then eventually he got out of the business to be a house painter, I guess, to try to earn a more stable income. And then later on, he would later return to show business in the 1960s at the age of 40. And his stand-up act took off with various television appearances and comedy albums. The man who is famous for his signature phrase, I don't get no respect, opened up the self-named comedy club Dangerfields in New York City, New York, where he helped the careers of notable comics such as Jerry Seinfeld, Jim Carrey, Roseanne Barr, Jeff Foxworthy, Tim Allen, and Sam Kinison. His movie career was as varied as his comedy act, making his acting debut in 1971, The Projectionist. He would later appear in such movies as Caddyshack, Easy Money, Back to School, Moving, Ladybugs, Meet Wally Sparks, and Little Nicky. Now, he was a regular when Johnny Carson hosted The Tonight Show and would appear frequently on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno as well. One of his last appearances was in August of 2004, just days before his hospitalization for a heart valve replacement on the television show Jimmy Kimmel Live. And he lived from 1921 to 2004, died at the age of 82. A comedy legend.
Here we have the final resting place of David White. He was an actor, 1916 to 1990. It says, a bronze bust of David White is in a niche near Rudolph Valentino's crypt. White's most famous role was playing Larry Tate, Darren Stevens' boss on the TV show Bewitched. His son Jonathan is also here, having died 2 years before his father as a passenger on the ill-fated Pan Am Flight 103. And there's a little bit of the inside of his niche there. And there is his son that died a couple years before him. And they say the bronze bust inside there is actually a cast of his face that they had done for the TV show Bewitched, for some kind of an effect they were doing for an episode.
Is the stone of Clayton Moore, best known for his role of the Lone Ranger on the television series that bore the same name. He was born Jack Carlton Moore and grew up in Chicago, and started as a circus acrobat at the age of 8, appearing as an aerialist at the 1934 World's Fair. In 1940, At the suggestion of producer Eddie Small, he changed his first name to Clayton and began appearing in B movies throughout the 1940s, mostly as a bad guy. His first role as a masked man was that of Zorro in the movie The Ghost of Zorro. To win the part of the Lone Ranger on the television show, he had to change his voice to sound like the popular radio star of the Lone Ranger show. With actor Jay Silverheels playing the part of Tonto, his faithful Indian companion, he was the Lone Ranger from the show's debut in 1949 until 1952, when he was fired in a salary dispute. At the time, he was television's most popular Western star, but he was replaced by Jack Hart, who only lasted one season. His fans demanded that he return, and the next year he was rehired at even a larger salary, continuing the series until its end in 1957. And he is currently the only person to have a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame with both his name and the character he played. His star reads, Clayton Moore, the Lone Ranger. And on the way out, it looks like I found another one of yesteryear Las Vegas, Mo Sedway, 1894 to 1952. He received notoriety for his part in managing with his partner Gus Greenbaum the Flamingo Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas, Nevada. At one point, he was instrumental in financing the construction of the hotel under his management. The hotel had a $4 million profit in the first year. Wow. Since he had close colleagues in organized crime, he was labeled a gangster or mobster. Wow, man. He had part in the Flamingo Hotel. And of course, very fitting, there's cards at the top of his stone. As a youth, he was in a street gang with 12 years younger Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, so they have a connection there too. Wow. So here we go, another one that was responsible for Las Vegas the way it is today. The Flamingo Hotel Casino sold for $9 million in 1954. In 1958, his partner Greenbaum and his wife were murdered in their home. Organized crime ties? Yeah, maybe, huh? And off to the left of Marilyn is Hugh M. Hefner, 1926 to 2017. And he started a magazine that is probably ingrained in every man's brain since childhood or their teenage years. Playboy magazine. He launched Playboy magazine into a local brand and led the way for the so-called sexual revolution of the 1960s. I had to step away. There was a lot of people visiting Maryland over there, right next to Hugh Hefner, so I had to step away. But Hugh Hefner was in the Army for a bit, and then in the 50s, he got a job with Esquire magazine as a copywriter. And then in 1953, through family and friends, he raised $8,000 to start Playboy magazine. And Playboy magazine was also the first to do the pull-out centerfold for the Playmate of the Month. And when Playboy started, it featured pictures of Marilyn Monroe, solidifying it as a total brand. I do believe that issue, I think it said it initially sold 50,000 copies or something to that effect. And it said by 1971, from what I understand, Playboy was selling 7 million copies a month. And then in 1974, good old Hugh Hefner moved into the Playboy mansion. And eventually Hugh married, some years later, his girlfriend, or his longtime girlfriend, Kimberly Conrad, and they had a couple of sons. And then, Hugh Hefner was involved in different things over the years. The E! Channel, the Girls Next Door TV show, and some other things. And then some years later, Hugh got married to another girlfriend, Crystal Harris, and he was semi-retired, and he was actually hopeful. He was saying that hopefully he thought one day one of his sons would take over the reins of the publication.